because the bottom line is really about connection. And honestly, that's what's going to keep our patients coming back. That's not why I do it. I do it because my heart is really concerned in caring.
One of the greatest downfalls of empathetic, service oriented, giving, loving, kind, compassionate professionals is that we give so much of ourselves away. And in today's episode, we have Tarryn Fournier, who's going to talk to us about the art of detachment. The art of detachment in terms of bringing more joy and happiness into your life and making you more an effective leader, of an effective, compassionate provider in the healthcare professions. Tara is a registered hygienist, and she is the Awakened Hygienist. She is a life coach for dental professionals and their teams. And this topic today could never be more important than it is today, and that is the art of detachment. I can't wait for you to hear how she suggests incorporating it into our daily practice and into our businesses, and how the art of detachment actually supports stronger, deeper relationship building and connection. Join me in welcoming Tarryn Fournier. Hello, and welcome to the Business of Happiness podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Tarryn MacCarthy, and we have with us today a very special guest. Her name is Tarryn Fournier, and she is a registered dental hygienist and founder of the Awakened Hygienist. Her purpose is to awaken dentistry to its highest potential. And she's fascinating because she holds so many certifications in mind-body wellness, yoga instructor. She's a Reiki Master, and most interesting to us, a transformational life coach. She is a leadership and mentorship coach who coaches dental professionals and their teams to step into a greater version of themselves. And today, Tara is here with us. Hello, my friend.
Hello. Thank you for having me on here.
I'm so excited to hear more about your story and also to introduce some of your expertise to my audience. Before we start, give us a little bit of a background about how you went from dental hygiene, graduating in 2002, and now stepping into this transformational life coach business mentorship to your clients.
Okay. Well, thank you again for having me on here. And I'm excited to share what the Awakened Hygienist is about, because it's not really just about me, but about everyone in our profession. So, my story is I did graduate hygiene school in 2002. I had previously been a dental assistant. So, I started in the 90s dental assisting, and went on to hygiene school, graduated. And then, honestly, by 2007, so 5 years later, I was already in the burnout mode. And I have been blessed with working in great offices. So it wasn't anything about the office, it was just the monotony of hygiene itself. And so from there, I decided, well, maybe I'll go to school and get some other certifications and do some side job type things so that I'm feeling like I'm getting a little bit of, something different, something more. And so I went to school for a few different things. And, but in 2011, well, actually, it was really 2010. I found a healing arts school in Tempe, Arizona. So I live in Arizona, but I'm up north now. But at the time, I was living in Phoenix. So in Tempe, Arizona, I found a healing arts school. I walked into it and I literally started crying. And I was like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And so I went through that school, started in the beginning of 2011, and went through a bunch of different programs there. And once I graduated, I felt like my whole plan was to get out of dentistry.
Mm.
So I was working part time as a hygienist, but then doing all of these other things, teaching yoga, started life coaching, and was trying to find my niche in the life coaching part. But it was really when COVID hit. So all of this time from basically 2011, 12 to 2020, I was coaching women, specifically only women. I had written a book that you can find on Amazon. I was really just trying to get out of hygiene.
Mm,
COVID hit in 2020, as we know, and I was like a deer caught in headlights because I felt like, what are my people doing? My people being the dental profession. All of a sudden, I was like, I I felt this like strong urge to connect
mm,
our profession together. And I
mm,
hadn't felt that up until that point.
mm,
So that was when things really started shifting and my mind began to think, I've been focused on not our profession, but on women and helping them with relationships and just coaching on a variety of different things. I need to turn this into our profession.
mm.
And so the ball started, rolling in my head. And it's been a process ever since basically March of 2020, right when COVID
That's
was
amazing.
announced.
And it's such a necessary need in our profession. I mean,
Yeah.
we need to hear this information. So it's so great that you were able to cultivate all those skills over that almost decade, working with other women and now being able to bring that expertise to dentistry.
Yes, yeah. And
Mm,
honestly, in the beginning when I felt like I need to look into our profession, I really truly in the beginning was like, how do I interweave all of
mm.
these things that are not dental related into our profession? So it took some time for me to really, feel what needed to happen. So, in
How
the
did you
beginning,
come to that? How were you able to integrate the 2?
a lot of journaling, meditating, really asking, like, how am I supposed to help our profession? And
Mm,
initially, it did start out as helping hygienists specifically. That was my first goal, was to help hygienists who were caught up in this COVID crisis and, either help them get out of the profession, because since that's what I had previously been trying to do, at first, I thought that was a part of what the Awakened Hygienist was about, but I noticed in just starting to talk with hygienists and coach a few that no, there was something bigger here. What was missing? And I had to ask myself a lot of questions and really spend time with, what is it? What is the root cause of what's happening in dental offices alone? As I mean, being in dentistry for so many years and having consultants come into different practices, it's all about the bottom line. It's the dollar. What profit can be made? And obviously it's a business, so I'm not saying that's wrong, it's not, but there's more to it. And I wanted to really explore what that meant, as being someone who's had the consultant come in. What would it look like if I were on the other side of that? If I were doing that consulting coaching, what could I share that maybe hasn't been shared yet? And that's when I really started exploring. This isn't about me just helping hygienists. This is about helping the profession as a whole and really elevating the way that we see ourselves, our profession, each other, our patients, our community. And that was when I was like, this is it. This is it. So
So what was that magic nugget of what we've been missing in the dental profession?
honestly, I feel like it starts with relationships. So, in talking with a lot of different hygienists, it comes down to what kind of relationship we have with ourself. What we find is, a boundary, for example, and how some may be allowing not just people in the profession, but maybe in their own home where boundaries are being crossed. And then we as ourselves bring that into the work, at and we're working with patients, working with team members who may not really be acting like a team.
Mm,
And I really feel like it comes down to when you have successful relationships, that what is that quote? We are who we surround ourselves with. The top
Mm.
7 people or top 5 people that you surround yourself with, that's who you are. And if we can make those relationships, if we can really get down to the root of what communication and relationships are all about, and then express that with our team members, it will flow into our practice, our community of patients. And that is when we get patients coming back and referring other patients to our practice, is when they feel a solid relationship and connection in the dental office, and they see how the dental office communicates with each other. It really comes down to how we're interacting and truly feeling with each other, that it then it's that ripple effect and flows out to our community.
Really great, really great. One of the things that you talk about on your blog that I caught my eye immediately that I'd love for you to explore a little bit on this episode is this idea of detachment.
Ooh, yeah.
And and I think that that's such a valuable skill in dental practice and in business in general. Can you talk to us a little bit about expound on that idea of detachment?
Okay. So, as a mind body wellness practitioner, and yoga teacher, I'm always really thinking and feeling and trying to embody different spiritual laws and apply them into my own life. And then that's how we teach, right? Is we apply things into our own life and we see what works and what doesn't. And then we can share that and teach that with others. And the law of detachment kept coming up into my field of vision, whether it was I opened up a book and saw it and I heard some people talking about it, and then it was just kind of in my field of space, and I thought, "Ooh, I need to write a post, an article about this on my website and share how that this is, because we're in a profession where we know people don't um really want to visit us very often, right? And so, as a hygienist for so many years, I've had patients say, "Oh, I hate coming to the dentist." And I always joke and say, "Well, it's a good thing I'm not a dentist then." But obviously, they're just coming in. I try and make it as comfortable as possible. But you can really take in what patients are feeling and then take that home with you. And I started to learn that this is them and this is me. And if I can lovingly detach and not have these expectations of what they have on me or what I have on them, and I can just we can just exist together for our hour, and as I'm seeing each patient, um it's really empowering when you can embrace the law of detachment. But then it's not just with our patients, it's also with our team, right? So
Mm.
I may say something and we're all interpreting information um, based on our past experiences. And so I could interpret something that a team member says to me based on a past experience that might not have been at all what that team member
Mm,
meant. But if I practice the law of detachment, then I'm not emotionally attached to whatever it is that they may have said.
yeah.
And it allows me to see the greater purpose, or to also say, I'm when you say that, this is how I'm interpreting it. I'm not sure if that's what you mean. It's just when we are able to embrace the law of detachment, we are able to communicate better because we're not holding all of this stuff inside of us that's predetermining what everyone is meaning, basically. So, I mean, the law of detachment can be applied everywhere in our life. And I could go on and on and on about this topic.
It's also extremely respectful of the other person.
Yes,
Sometimes if we don't honor the law of detachment, we end up judging. We end up
absolutely.
putting up defenses, we end up blaming, we end up really judging the other person or sometimes ourselves
Mhm.
critically as well. Can you expand a little bit on that, please? Some of the negativity, some of the negative outcomes that come from not honoring this law of detachment.
Well, we will hold these expectations of not just ourselves, but of other people, and
Right.
that's the last thing that we really should be doing, is putting any expectations on anyone, truthfully. But that is a very hard practice, and it's very hard to even observe yourself doing it unless you're really trying to live a conscious life. It's hard to see that we put attachments and expectations on our family members, our partner, our children. We put it on our boss, our team members. It's really everywhere. And if I mean, it's even when we go to the restaurant, right? And the way that the server handles our table. We could have judgment on that. But if we practice the law of detachment, we are able to understand that there's a greater picture that we don't fully understand. And it allows us to give grace to
Mm.
everyone around us. And if we can all just give grace and say, maybe that person has something going on. Maybe that's why they're, upset or seem angry at me or whatever. Um if we can do that, that would really shift a lot. But the negative aspects of that, if we're not practicing that, then we're basically creating relationships that may not be in our truth or in the other person's truth, or for the greater good of you know ourselves and each other. And we're really not providing a truth foundation in which we can grow, and the other people in our lives can support and help them grow too.
If you're listening to this podcast, chances are you didn't get into business to be miserable. The problem is that people feel that if their business gets busier, if they start becoming more successful, that happiness will eventually set in. But it can actually get worse. This is why I created the Business of Happiness Prosperity Coaching. In this one-on-one coaching, we look at how to redefine success on your terms and re-find the joy and the passion in your dream. Visit me at thebizofhappiness.com and become the happiest business owner you know. I think this is such an interesting conversation, especially in the dental profession, where most of us are drawn to the profession because of the love of service. We want to take care of someone. And especially in people's mouths, it's such a vulnerable place. It's such a sensitive place. People come in pain. Most people come in fear, and we're so wanting to take care of someone else. So we put so much expectation of how they receive
Yeah,
our support.
yeah,
I think that there's a lot of fear there around taking too much ownership for somebody's reception of your care of them,
yes.
and how you value yourself and your craft in that.
Mhm.
Can you talk to us a little bit about that in terms of how you see yourself as a provider?
So, as a provider, I will sit there and listen to someone whenever someone comes into my chair and they, start with, "Oh, life isn't going so great today." I don't turn my back to them and open up their chart in my computer. I sit down in my chair and I'm like, "Are you okay? What's going on?" Because the bottom line is really about connection.
Mm,
And honestly, that's what's going to keep our patients coming back. That's not why I do it. I do it because my heart is really concerned and caring, and I want to let them know I'm here if you need. In fact, I've had one patient, one patient said to me, he was in the middle of a divorce. And of course, I had seen him many times before. And he said, when I when so in my practice, the dentist does not come into our hygiene rooms for the exam. He actually has us move the patient into his room. So I was in the process of moving this patient into the dentist room, and he said to me, "Do I owe you extra for my counseling session today?" Besides just his cleaning. Because, he felt like I heard him, and that's really what everyone wants. Everyone wants to be heard. And so, you know, in when I'm working, I really want people to feel that I'm there for them and feel that connection because one, that's just who I am. But two, I also know how important it is for someone to be coming into the dental office. Like you said, they're in a very we are laying them back and having them open up their mouth, which is a very vulnerable position, laying back and then just diving in and invading their space because that's what we're doing. And we do it every day, multiple times a day. That to us, yeah, this is what it's nothing new. But to them, it's like, oh my gosh, it's been 6 months ago or, a few months ago, whatever, however often they're coming in, it's been this amount of time. And now I have to get back into this vulnerable position. So if we can just honor, understand that that's where all of our patients are all of the time, all day long, then I think it will help us really kind of connect with them and be like, okay, we don't have to say, hey, I know I'm putting you in a vulnerable position by laying you back, but we can say that indirectly by the way that we listen to them, we make eye contact with them, we sit down with them, and I think that is one of the things that's going to keep our patients coming back.
There's this very delicate dance
Right.
between connecting and serving and supporting and then detaching.
Yes. Yes.
Can
Again,
you
it
speak
comes
to that? Yeah.
yeah, it's that expectation, that's when we practice the law of detachment, we truly are releasing our expectations. And that's the bottom line of what we need to do. We've all had patients who come in and say, well, I haven't been flossing. Please don't yell at me. I haven't been flossing. And right away I say to them, you're a grown adult. I will not yell at you. They're your teeth. Whatever you choose. And then they're like, "Oh, okay." You know? But there's this, almost kind of fear that we're gonna scold them for not taking care of their own body. It's your body, whatever you choose. I'll just say, "I'm glad that you came in today." And I refuse to, scold my patients. So,
So, what practices do you recommend for practitioners and providers on how to create this loving detachment, this
mhm,
care and empathy and support of our patients, and still have a detachment of the expectations or the outcome?
mhm. Well, I feel like for any kind of practice, all practices really start with ourselves. It really
Mm,
comes down to how can we release those expectations on ourselves that we may put on. Obviously we all have goals and we want to achieve them, and if we don't, we may be a little upset but in a general sense, if we can understand how it feels to release some of those expectations we hold on ourselves, it becomes easier to do that with other people. Um, I just feel like have you heard the statement hurt people, you know?
absolutely. Mm.
And so, if you aren't practicing self-care and love for yourself, how can you be that for someone else and express that energy to someone else? You really can't.
No, it's so beautiful, and I think that's the one thing that we forget often as providers and
Mhm.
wanting to serve so much. We forget how critical our self care is in being able to be our best for others.
Right.
Has there been a time in your life where you've realized this to be true, or how did you learn the lesson of detachment?
Hmm. So I feel like it's a practice. You never are fully um we're always the student of life, you know? And so daily there are things that come up that then I go, "Oh, wait a second," you know? So it's easy to react and to just be in that human role. But then you go, "Oh, wait a second. Oh yeah." And take a moment to step back, check in.
Can you give us an example of one of those for you, something in
Oh,
your
well,
life?
I have 2 children, one of which is 9 years old who acts like, she's 15. So, I every day I have an example of that, but I just really think we have to focus on staying of being really trying to focus on living consciously and being aware of the present moment at all times, because just in this in our conversation, the beginning of the conversation is already in the past, right? Here we are right here in this present moment. So
Mm.
um focusing on the moment.
And then maybe releasing the future as well, that detachment
Oh
aspect
my
of it.
goodness.
Mm.
We get so attached. So when we're focused on the future, it's really based on things that have happened in the past.
Mm.
And if we're not attached to the future, then we are in essence open to endless possibilities.
I know, how exciting is that
Yeah.
idea? How exciting is
I mean,
that?
it's amazing, right? And yet we
Mm,
still are holding on to what we want to happen
mm.
tomorrow, next week, the end of the year, and it's good to have a vision, and we can put that vision out there because that's what's going to guide us, right? It's kind of like a stepping stone. So I think of life as being like this river, and there's these stepping stones, and I can't get from stepping stone A to stepping stone Z. I have to step to B and then to C and D, and sometimes those stones, are weaving through that river, and it may go left sometimes and it may go right sometimes, but there's always going to be the next step ahead. And so just allowing life to flow around us and being in that flow with life. That's where the law of detachment helps too, because if I'm thinking I need to continue going right
Yeah,
and then life, throws a ball at me, I could cry because I still want to go right, or I could just say, "Oh, okay. I guess maybe I'm supposed to go left here," you know?
absolutely, and I think, being able to honor that skill is important too. During you mentioned COVID hitting, so many of us have learned how to do that, how to bob and weave and pivot, but still don't acknowledge that new skill, that newfound ability, and kind of longing for the past, for what it was like before there were major changes or
Right.
perceived changes,
Mhm.
even though the truth is life is always changing.
Right. Right.
Yeah, yeah. So I want to also let my audience know you have a really cool new program coming up called the Paradigm. It's a leadership program. So
Mhm.
we're talking more about leadership now, which is absolutely awesome. So tell me a little bit about this program that you have coming up.
So this program I've created for dental offices for the whole team, and it's a different concept than as I mentioned earlier, where we have the consultant who comes in who says, "Okay, these are the things we're going to do to, increase production and whatnot." This leadership program is really about creating leaders within the entire team.
Mm,
And when each of us are truly being a leader, then there's a lot more opportunity for growth within the practice. But if we just stay in this little box of, for example, me being the hygienist and this person being front office, and this person being dental assistant, and we just stay in that box, then we're really not providing a space for growth. But if we begin to understand that each of us are leaders, then it gives us an opportunity to step up. And I don't have to just stay in this leadership, in this box of being a dental hygienist. I can become a leader in these other areas that benefit the practice. The dental assistant doesn't have to just stay in their box. They can become a leader, and then it's really about what other abilities and gifts do you have that you can bring into the office that can elevate our office and distinguish the office from the office down the street.
So cool. What would you say is your superpower, Tara?
Oh, wow. So, you know, with the certifications that I have, one of the reasons why I pursued those was because I do feel like a superpower is to that I have is to truly see someone,
Mm.
not just have them be another human in my life, but to truly see them, see what they're capable of. So that goes with, in the dental office, that would be to acknowledge the gifts that my team members have, and to acknowledge my patients coming in as not just this mouth that I'm here to clean, but who they are as a whole being. So that part of, I would say, my superpower is, that energetic awareness, that spiritual awareness. But I also have some superpowers as far as I don't want to just sit in my room and clean teeth. I want to expand on technology and all of these other things that I know how to do, and that I can help other people in my office achieve. Um, you know, I mean, it could, if someone loves to write in their office, they're dental assistant, but they love to write. They could create a newsletter for the practice, right? That could be a one step in how they up level themselves into being a leader in the practice. So I like to help other my superpower is helping other people find out what their superpower is. How's
Oh,
that?
I love that. I love that. That's a superpower indeed because it has this ripple effect of impacting others in so many great ways. And then when people can tap into their superpowers, they can continue to pay it forward from there. So
Exactly. Yes.
that's an honorable superpower. Honorable superpower. I just want to honor you and say thank you. Thank you for everything you're doing. And thank you for the courage to bring this awareness to such a linear minded, science based world. These spiritual concepts, these mindset concepts are so important. And there's never been a more important time for us to have this understanding of relationships and connection with other human beings. Definitely, our profession is in such a need for this awakening. So, thank you for bringing the Awakened Hygienist.
Thank you so much. I'm grateful to be walking this path and
So
sharing
cool.
it.
So cool. Before we leave, I would love to know what is your definition of happiness, Tara?
Ooh, my definition of happiness is finding balance within my family life, within my business life, and friendships, community. Finding balance in all of that is my definition of happiness.
Wonderful. Thank you for joining us, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you for
And
having me.
thank you to all of you for joining us today on this episode of The Business of Happiness. And I hope that you can take some of this incredible value that Tara has brought to us today and really looking at detachment as a superpower in your practice and in your life. Until next time, remember when you feel good, that's when you can do good. Bye bye.